We are always on the lookout for inspiring projects, and Green School is definitely one of them. So thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. And I was wondering, could you tell us more about, first of all, your personal journey as a teacher, and how did you come about being at Green School?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks very much for allowing me this opportunity to connect. I was just talking to a colleague, and she was saying, is this something that you really like to do, and talk about Green School in this sort of formal way? And it is definitely part of my mission to change education. And what we do here is pretty awesome, but it is also very, very important that we're loud and proud in terms of innovation, educating for sustainability, and creating a new model of education. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased and happy to be here. Thanks very much for providing the opportunity. My name's Sal Gordon. I'm an Australian that had a pretty normal upbringing, normal school, went away to a nice private school, did an undergraduate. I followed that sort of traditional pathway and got to the end of my undergraduate and realised I needed a gap year before I was at that time planning to go into a medical degree, a postgrad medical degree, and I decided to take a gap year. And I worked with an NGO in India, a sustainable development NGO in India, working directly with doctors. That's who I wanted to become later on in life. I thought that was a perfect plan for a gap year to upskill and to give me an understanding of the real world, and also sort of, my professional journey where I thought I was going. Things changed during that gap year. India changes people. I think most people who go there would agree with me. And I realised that I had a lot to learn. I had done really well at school. I really enjoyed my school. It was very traditional. But it didn't take me long in the real world to realise that a lot of what I'd learned and what I'd been examined on and assessed by as a person and as a learner was totally obsolete in the real world. And the things that I needed to learn were life skills, and things that I wanted to get better at were closely connected to my values. And so my gap year turned into a gap decade, which is probably a whole other story. And I like talking about my gap decade because it was an amazing adventure around the world, from sailing boats to building houses to working through Asia, across Europe, and around Australia. And the more I got into my gap decade, the more I learnt about the world and cultures and people. And in a way, I suppose I had to get lost to find a new path that was uniquely for me, and to be satisfied with the impact that I could have in this world. Things change, and I got to a point where I had to make a serious decision about what I was going to do as an adult. When I was about 30, I started thinking about that. And I realised that I'd been doing a lot of teaching and a lot of learning. I've always been a really passionate scientist as an explanation of life, and also a passionate mathematician, just always drawn to the magic of numbers in our lives and in nature around us. And it was quite an easy step for me to move into education. And within a year, I'd done a postgrad teaching degree in Melbourne at lovely Melbourne University, and I became a teacher, a classroom teacher. Long story short, when I started teaching, I realised that not a lot in education had changed since I was a student. The buildings looked the same, curriculum was basically the same, some of the resources I think were exactly the same. There's been some adaptations and changes with technology and things like that, but at the same time I was starting a family, and I had kids, young kids, and it was sort of like working or owning a restaurant where you didn't want your kids to eat. And I was worried about the education that my children were going to get, because it was very similar to the education that I'd received. And that struck me as something that I wanted to do something about, because we all know the exponential change that the planet is going through and has been going through, whether it's Moore's law for technology, or whether it's the changes in societies and our understanding of different cultures, whether it's environmental change. It's exponential. And I believe that education in a way has been stuck in a time capsule for too long, and it's lost the point of its purpose and the purpose to educate and to bring future generations skilled, passionate, happy children into an adult world where they can function and make an impact in their lives and in the lives around them. So in a small school in country Victoria in Australia, I started to break the mould. I started to teach sustainability units integrated across whole grades, collapsing the borders of going to a geography class and then a maths class and then a science class and teaching themes. It still wasn't enough. One day a friend of mine showed me the John Hardy TED Talk. John Hardy is the founder of Green School, co-founder with Cynthia, and I fell in love over video with a school that I wanted to be a part of and I wanted my children to be a part of, and that's Green School Bali. That was 8 years ago. I came here when the school had probably just finished its pilot project stage after 5 years. There were 300 students in the school. There were 60 kids in middle school where I taught. There's 5 teachers. And I had the opportunity to build an amazing, innovative middle school program with a cool team of teachers. And then I had the opportunity further down the track to be the head of that middle school program. And now I've been in the head of teaching and learning, the principal's role here. This is my 3rd year. So my journey has been a little bit different. And I believe probably all of our journeys, if we sit down and be self-aware about them, are all unique to us. And right now I'm passionately involved in changing education, the view on what education should be and how a school fits within a community, what it looks like, what its major aims are. And we're doing some really cool things even during COVID at Green School Bali.
Wow, this is an amazing story and it's so inspiring. It makes everyone drop what they do and I would say join you right now. And,
Great,
you know,
yeah.
I hope you have enough space for us. So Green School was selected by World Economic Forum last year as one of the 10 schools of the future. But what is the school of the future and which are those key ingredients of your success?
Yeah, well, for us, we want a school to be more than just a place where parents drop their kids off in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon. We want schools to be places that are more than just where students learn information from a teacher and then are assessed in a formal way at the end of a unit or at the end of a semester. We want schools to be centres of innovation within a community. We want schools to be connected to the community. We want our whole school to be a community of learners, where myself, I often go to events or participate in things where I am a common denominator as a learner like everyone else. Importantly for us, we know that as the world is changing and the access to information is different now, like most of what I was taught, I can, Google on my phone in 10 seconds. We also know that what we teach needs to change and needs to swing focus from solely information-based learning to rich skill-based learning opportunities and values-based learning opportunities as well. Integrated within that, we don't believe a lot of the strong parts of our program here are thematic, integrated style learning experiences. So we don't like to put learning in a box. And yes, students will go to a maths class and will go to a literacy class and will go to a science class. But there's opportunities even in those formal, rigid classrooms to integrate different aspects of the world into our classes. So a maths class might become a maths PE science class, or a literacy class might become a history activation project class. So we don't like putting the learning in a box, and we try and create as many integrated real-world learning opportunities. So a school of the future needs to be something that is present and active and self-aware with the now, but also skilling up ourselves, even myself as an adult, but importantly the students, so that they are happy and functioning and impactful in their lives for the future. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of change in education at the moment, and I see traditional education systems, whether they be international or country-specific education systems, changing. But they're big machines. They're big ocean liners, and it takes a long time to turn a big ocean liner. And Green School Bali's had the opportunity as a smaller community in a country that's allowed us to be as innovative as possible, to quickly adapt and pivot the style of learning program that we want to bring. So School of the Future has to be focused on the now and the problems and making that future better, but also looking at the future and looking at what skills are necessary and what values we think are necessary for the planet to be a better place. We're a community of learners. It's our mission, a community of learners making our world sustainable. And they're more than just words on a website or printed on the wall and a nice sign. That's the founding guiding light for us in everything that we do. So we're all learning together, and our learning has an impact now, and we know we'll have an impact in the future.
You were mentioning the thematic and interdisciplinary approach to teaching content, and some of the courses you're offering touch on, for example, digital citizenship and technology. There's a lot of talk around the impact of digital transformation in education in school. How are you using technology in developing the Green School's activities and your students' competencies? Could you tell us more about also your digital citizenship course?
Yeah, well, digital citizenship from a whole school perspective is something that we concentrate on in different ways across different age groups. We're definitely not hiding from digital or IT opportunities to enhance learning. We also know that the more upskilling in terms of IT specific skills that we can give our students, the better off they'll be in the future as well, because we know the type of world we're moving into is very digital. I'd say most of our lower school, we have an early years program, which is kindy and pre-kindy and primary school. They're doing some things that relate directly to the digital technology, but a lot of the time their feet's probably more firmly stuck in the mud, and looking at more traditional technologies as well. Often we think of technologies as something that are just new and that we're developing now, but there are a lot of beautiful, amazing, intelligent technologies that are traditional and that we learn from those too. It looks different again for different age groups. We like to provide opportunities for coding and for robotics. We have an innovation hub here, which the whole school can interact with, which has coding, robotics, laser printing, 3D printing, and some of the other sort of more traditional woodwork, metalwork sort of areas. We've also got a bio lab in there, which takes our bio. We run bio buses here. Before COVID, when we were allowed to run buses, where our students collect used cooking oil, and through a different refinery place, we get our biodiesel from used cooking oil to run our school buses. But then we use the byproduct glycerine in our bio labs to do a whole heap of really cool things too. The technology's mixed. It's important to us, but we also know that something else that's just as important to us is that connection with nature and that connection with sustainable technologies, whether they be new, high-tech technologies or whether they be more traditional wisdom technologies. When we're talking about moving towards a sustainable future, a lot of the solutions, we have a solutions-based approach in terms of a lot of the projects that we do. And often it's student-centered, where a student can choose to do a particular thing. I know one student right now is developing a stairway system that generates electricity. And he's using the iHub and the project bank money that we've got here to help develop an initiative there. Another student last year in grade 12 who did his passion project on a pyrolysis machine, which is turning plastic into diesel as well. So a lot of it is, whole school community with our solar hydro system, our vortex that generates electricity down by the river. There's about 50 different sustainability projects that are connected to the learning program, but a lot of it as well is driven by student choice of what they're interested in. There are a lot of opportunities for students to do projects on their own and communicate them, present them to the community. It's a bit of a mixed bag, definitely not ignoring technologies, but we haven't become a full technology school. In fact, I think there was a while when we were diving into even how we're delivering and capturing courses through Google Classroom, and everything was going on a laptop and learning was really in front of a screen for a lot of the time. And we actually pulled back a fair bit so that kids were actually using pens and paper, and kids had an opportunity to either learn to code or to do some robotics, or they had an opportunity to garden and learn about permaculture. We believe that, you know, all technologies those technologies are valuable. Some of the other things we do, just quickly, I know probably a long answer, but finding problems or finding things we want to make better in our community is really important to us. And sometimes that's heavily reliant on new technologies. And sometimes, again, we go back to traditional technologies. So whether it's banning plastic bags in Bali, or it's a social justice issue, or it's a dog program, animal welfare program, or a pyrolysis machine, or a stairway that's going to generate electricity, or a recycling program that we've done, or our bio-bus program, our hydro water solar centre. You know, these are technologies that we believe that we can access and use to make the world a better place and help us achieve our mission, which is to make the world more sustainable.
How does a
day
day...
too, right on. Can you hear this school around me?
Yes, yes, it's amazing. It's,
you know,
vibrating.
I spent about 20 minutes before this trying to find a quiet place, but it is literally impossible. We have students on site today. We're in a country that's had schools closed for 200 days. Students haven't gone to school, actual school, in 200 days, but we've been lucky to open at a limited attendance sometimes and allow the students to come into campus through different sorts of licenses, and knowing that we've got a safe environment where there's no walls and good protocols. You know, COVID's taken its toll on us for a bit, so I'm happy to be here on a noisy campus. I wonder if you can even hear the bugs.
Totally. So it's vibrating. It's really, you can feel life. It's amazing.
Well, shouldn't that be what schools are places? And you talk about a school of the future. How many people watching today, or how many people can think back about their time at school and consider that their school was a place that they were friends with? The actual place. Learning's something that connects us all. That's really all we do through life, from birth to probably when we get old and die, is learn. And learning is just so special. It's such a gift for us. Look at the planet. Look at the what we've created, all because we're great learners. And I want schools to be places where people want to go to. Our students finish holidays and can't wait to get back to school. And the weekend sucks because I don't get to go to school. I want schools to be places where happiness is what we aim to achieve, where students are happily coming to school, engaging and learning, seeing impact in their learning now rather than just being taught something because they might use it later. And being on campus when we have students here with music playing, with building happening, with kids in the garden, singing. I'm surprised that there's not some more action behind me. I did try and find a quiet place.
Speaking of inspiring places, how does a day in the life of a teacher look like in Green School?
Yeah, every day is different. It's one thing that I really liked, and I think most educators would agree with me or connect with the idea that, you know, I'd done a lot of different things in different jobs before I was a teacher, but even my favourite jobs became a little bit boring and mundane because I was basically doing the same thing every day. And what I really like about teaching is that even if you do an 8A maths class at 9 o'clock, your 8B maths class, for example, is completely different. Even though the contents and your outcomes might be the same, everything, every minute of the day is different as an educator. And at Green School Bali, I think that's extrapolated to the nth degree. You know, our teachers we employ amazing, intelligent, you know, top class educators, but they're also passionate about changing education, passionate about innovating within their classrooms, passionate about their educational experience, providing impact, passionate about sustainability. So the day in the life of a teacher is coming in. We normally have an amazing community school. You come to school, and before COVID, there would often be 400 or 500 people in our sort of community area with a coffee shop and food places, and we all sort of get together in the morning. The days are really different. There's some very sort of normal school things happening. Like I said before, they will have a maths class. We do believe in good structured numerical skills. They will have a literacy class, but the very next lesson they might be off to the iHub, where their class is creating a project that's upcycling plastic bottles. Then the next lesson they might be out in the garden. We've got a beautiful river. I would often take my maths classes down to the river and do maths on our beautiful Green School bridge. Social emotional learning and development is also important. So there's mindfulness in our day, and that looks different. The mindfulness practices across the grades is different. We normally eat together as a community. We eat our school lunches are locally sourced, organic if we can. There's always music playing. There's always opportunities to connect different grades and different learning experiences. We also get, those really cool opportunities when someone wants to come and visit us, and whether that's, Sylvia Earle or Dr. Jane Goodall or Vandana Shiva. Peggy Oakey was here this week and last. Really cool people that come to the school and impact. Novak Djokovic held the floor for about an hour with our middle school and high school students to talk to them. So there's lots of really cool opportunities for our school to connect with the outside world in a way, and often that just comes up at the last minute for a teacher and goes, "Oh, Novak Djokovic is here. Let's go listen to him in the gym." 2:00, something that's different here at Green School and defines our day as well. We have a 2:00 mindfulness gong. Might sound funny, but for a whole community to stop and take a few breaths together, regardless of where you are and what you're doing at 2:00, is a nice thing for a community to do. So there's academics, there's thematics, there's times in innovation hub experiences, there's physical well-being, there's social emotional. Music and art are valued, respected, and used as a way to activate and share and celebrate what we stand up for. Quite a holistic, probably by definition, holistic learning experience for all people. I don't think our teachers come here and think they're coming to work to teach. They're coming to work to be involved in a teaching and learning environment, and that's a really cool thing. Yeah. A lot of people get up and, I got to go to work and I got to teach this and I got to do this, got to get this classroom ready, or, we try to flick it around to I get to, I wake up in the morning and say, I get to go to work and I get to have an impact with what I do at school, and I get to make the world a more sustainable place from what I'm doing. And changing the got to get is a really cool thing. And I think a lot of teachers here value that. Hard work though, because when you design a learning program that's 70% set and 30% evolving every year, it means that you very rarely just teach the same thing as you taught the year before. We're always developing new ideas about skill-based learning or a values-based learning opportunity or a new project, or another organisation comes to us and wants to connect, or there's something else in the community that we want to have an impact on. And so I think we work probably a little bit harder than a lot of teachers.
And we've seen that you have also developed educator courses that are open to teachers around the world, and that more than 700 teachers from over 50 countries have participated in these immersive programs. Now, of course, teachers who may be watching you now are wondering, okay, how can I join such a program? What are these programs all about? Could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, we're really lucky. A place like Bali is a lovely place to be. And this campus is pretty epic. And for the last 8 years, I believe, we've run on-site, on-campus in Bali, green educator courses. And yeah, you're right, there's probably about 700 that have gone through them. COVID changed all of that, and we've had to go online with that. And we've done just completed our first 8-week blended course, which has 2-week structured instruction in a way, and discussion forums and activities to do. And then every 2 weeks we have a workshop that we connect with educators as well. It's totally awesome. Not, we go through what is transformational teaching. We go through what we do in terms of project-based learning, or how we integrate sustainability, not just educating about sustainability, but educating for sustainability. We look at different social emotional aspects, including mindfulness. We basically go through a foundational overview of what Green School Bali is. We're also very aware that, you know, we've probably got the full smorgasbord of options here, because, like I said before, we've had this amazing opportunity to develop a learning program in any way we wanted. You know, we do have WASC accreditation, we do have to do our Indonesian International School accreditation, but we've had so much freedom to design this concept, this new concept of school and learning. I don't know, it's so holistic. It's pretty hard to outline it. I need to write a book on just the opportunities here within the school, and for students and for teachers and parents. We had 47 educators at the last course online for us, all working in, you know, 20 or 30 different countries around the world. And we're well aware that, like I said, we've got the full smorgasbord of offerings, and maybe there's even more in terms of what we do here. We're well aware that that's often not the case for educators, teachers in other countries and in other schools, whether it's a rigid curriculum or whether it's the actual environment, the physical environment that the school is in, whether it's local, national regulations that they have to do. But we'll also believe, and we provide opportunities for people to connect some of our ideas with what they do. So I don't think there could be another green school exactly like Green School Bali. Although Green School New Zealand and Green School South Africa, amazing, awesome places, but they're different because they're in different places. But there are places, you know, there are tips. It's an easy tip for me, and I think it works in any classroom, is to start rethinking what your outcomes for a class or for a learner, individual learner, would be, rather than going into a class and go, I want my kids to be able to recite the photosynthesis formula, and that's my outcome, for someone to be able to by memory write down a formula that summarizes photosynthesis. You know, rephrase that into a thinking critical skill, or rethink that into a nature-based learning opportunity where students can actually connect and understand that the carbon dioxide that they're breathing out is the same carbon dioxide that the tree is taking in to photosynthesize and then create oxygen that we are breathing into. There are opportunities that we can tweak nearly any learning experience, whether it's an algebra or a history or a literacy or a maths class. I think looking at skills is a really good way of actually changing the focus within classrooms. I also think the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, are awesome checkpoints, and I can't see a better sort of lens to throw an authentic, real-world look at learning opportunities. So a lot of our thematics are based on SDGs, and I think that's something that could be incorporated into nearly any learning experience. You know, whether it's a literacy class that's doing a novel study, we'll find an SDG that focuses on that, whether that's access to education or poverty or whatever it is. I think there's the SDGs are really cool waypoints and checkpoints that people can use as a lens to differentiate and start educating about sustainability. Also think just, you know, the way that the class or the grade, that homeroom connects with parents and allows parents to be a part of the learning journey is really important. Again, a connection to the community. And so if there's opportunities for students to learn something and then do something with their learning now within their community, has an impact, a big impact on the students, because they can see the point of learning something. They're activating their learning right now. They're not just learning for an exam or learning for maybe one day they're going to use the volume of a sphere formula. Probably not. But, you know, if you can provide opportunities for the learning in your classroom to get outside of the classroom, whether that's to connect with a different grade within the school or to connect with an organisation outside of the school, I think those are things that are are opportunities that are available to all schools.
Thank you so much, Sel. We are coming at an end of our interview, and I was wondering, do you have a personal message for Swiss teachers who are part of the Educreators community and are watching you now?
Oh, I've got so many personal messages. This is all very personal to me, and I think teaching, one thing that's really beautiful about teaching is that it's a profession, but the better I am at it professionally relies on me, my personal development, my personal investment into it. I honestly believe that education needs to change. I can see it is changing. And it's important for me, and I think it's important for other educators to realise that this should be a non-negotiable for us. We have an opportunity as educators. We've got such an opportunity and a responsibility for our learners and for the planet. You know, kids come to us 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. They spend more time with me than with their parents, with you, the educators. And we have an opportunity and a responsibility to create a better future and to redesign education models that play a part in that. You know, education systems define civilizations. They always have. You know, how is the current education system defining us as a civilization, as a species? And what do we want that civilization and species to be in the future? I think a lot of that, a whole lot of that comes to the education and the educators that are doing it. So stay motivated, get out there. This is a non-negotiable. Together we can change the world by changing education.
Thank you so much for all your time, for sharing all these inspiring visions and experiences. And we look very much forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, I'd love to keep connected. And anyone that's watching, you know, we're really happy to connect, whether it's through Green Educator courses or just getting in touch with us. You know, we can share practice, we can all improve together. And I think there is a big community of change makers in the education world. And I feel, you know, a pleasure, but also a responsibility in that to play a role. And I'm really happy to open the gates to as many people and organisations as possible to join